So as a lot of people know, I'm very much into anti-aging, and part of anti-aging is brain health, of course, and the health of the central nervous system. One of the things that helps the central nervous system stay healthy is the glymphatic system, which is similar to the lymphatic system, but not exactly. The glymphatic system removes toxins and debris and things like that from the brain. It's kind of like the blood-brain barrier is kind of part of it. So what is it? The glymphatic system was described and named in 2012. So it was discovered in 2012 as a system of waste clearance in the central nervous system of vertebrates. According to this model, cerebrospinal fluid flows into the paravascular space around cerebral arteries, combining with interstitial fluid and parachemal fluid solutes, and exiting down venous paravascular spaces. The pathway consists of a para-arterial influx route to enter the brain parenchyma, coupled to the clearance mechanism for the removal of interstitial fluid and extracellular solutes from so basically it's removing gunk from your brain. So here's a video. So this is how it works. Okay. So the name glymphatic system was coined by the Danish neuroscientist Maken Nedergaard in recognition of its dependence upon glial cells and the similarity of functions to those of the lymphatic system. The glymphatic flow was initially believed to be... Now, what people need to understand, so the lymphatic system removes toxins from the bloodstream, right? But the lymphatic system, a lot of people talk about moving lymph and all this. Lymph can be moved, especially if you're doing strength training workouts or walking. You're going to be moving lymph. The problem with lymph, though, is that you must move. The lymph system does not have a heart to move the stuff, so you have to move in order to move the lymphatic fluid. The glymphatic system, I'm going to get into how to help with that, and there are certain things you can take that help with that. Now, before I start, I want to remind people I'm not a doctor, I'm not a DO, I'm not an MD, I'm not an ND, I'm not a chiropractor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not an LPN, I'm not an RN, I'm not a nurse practitioner, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm nothing like that. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. In a study published in 2012, a group of researchers from the University of Rochester, headed by M. Nedergaard, used in vivo 2-photon imaging of small fluorescent tracers to monitor the flow of subarachnoid CSF into and through the brain parenchyma. The 2-photon microscopy allowed the Rochester team to visualize the flux. Okay. Function. Okay, the first direct evidence that clearance of interstitial waste products increased during the resting state, meaning when you're asleep, used a combination of diffusion, whatever. Yeah, this is, people might remember I mentioned Maria Konovalenko here and there. In a comment on a YouTube video, she mentioned that the reason that humans might live so long is because we sleep. Which, when we sleep, it encourages detoxification and DNA repair. Lipid transport, another key function of the glymphatic system, was documented, and its lipid transport, clinical significance, blah, blah, blah. It's obviously clinically significant in neurodegenerative diseases, such as Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, and I'm going to move on here. So So this is a explanation of the glymphatic system, the semi-long introduction, blah, 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 your blah, blah, blah. Interesting, your brain to body ratio is blah, 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 whatever. So the brain's private contractor for garbage disposal. Your brain was thought of as not having its own waste disposal system, unlike most of the organs in the body. The other organs in your body have the lymphatic system that acts as a waste disposal. So the lymphatic system cleanses the organs in the blood. It's made up of an interconnected series of small vessels that run through the body, lymph fluid that cleans each organ. All the wastes are poured into a network of lymph ducts that ultimately drain into blood vessels where they're mixed with blood. The blood passes through your liver and kidneys where the wastes are disposed of from their body. Okay. This is about cerebral spinal fluid. Is a liquid around the brain and spinal cord. Its primary purpose was thought to be a cushion for your brain inside your skull, preventing trauma to the brain. They found out that it also doubles as the lymph fluid of your brain. Using sophisticated imaging techniques on the brain of mice, they discovered and saw that CSF, cerebral spinal fluid, flowed into the brain, and not just on the surface, as was previously thought. They also documented that the cerebrospinal fluid swept away leftover and clumped proteins. Cerebrospinal fluid flowed into spaces that wrapped around small blood vessels that penetrate the substance of the brain. They found out that these spaces acted like gates for the entry of the cerebrospinal fluid. A group of supporting brain cells served as gatekeepers of these spaces. The supporting brain cells have sucking mechanisms that siphon cerebrospinal fluid from the spaces and gets it in contact with brain cells, neurons. It collects proteins and other waste products and dumps it into lymphatic ducts. Another function of the glymphatic system is the transport of lipophilic molecules, meaning fats, between supporting brain cells. Why your glymphatic system is essential: Huntington's disease, Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, and Alzheimer's disease are examples of neurodegenerative diseases. There's a loss of neurons in these diseases that lead to sensory loss, memory decline, and cognitive impairment that worsen over time. They also fall under a general category of diseases called proteinopathies. Diseases that fall under proteinopathies basically cause problems related to clumping of proteins, whether inside or outside the brain cells. Considering the tiny spaces inside these brain cells and with no room for expansion, you can just imagine the consequences of these accumulations. Your glymphatic system may be deep inside your brain, but you can still help it do its job. Sleep. Of course, this isn't something you consciously do. Multiple studies have documented that the cerebrospinal fluid flow is maximized inside mice brains during sleep compared to awake states. This may be the reason why you feel rejuvenated and recharged after a good night's sleep. Your brain was able to take out its trash. Ketogenic diets. Now, keep in mind, remember, the Eco-Atkins diet. You don't have to go on a high cholesterol, unhealthy ketogenic diet anymore. You can go on the Eco-Atkins diet, which is a vegan version with healthy fats and things of that nature. So ketogenic diets are low carbohydrate and high fat diets. Studies on mice have shown that mice fed with ketogenic diets have better clearance of beta amyloid and other leftover brain proteins. The exact mechanisms as to how this happens remain unclear. So if you go on a ketogenic diet, you may be assisting your glymphatic system in eliminating these leftover proteins. Change your posture when you sleep. Researchers discovered that glymphatic systems are back with a new discovery. They showed that the body posture of mice while sleeping on their sides significantly increased the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid. Supplement with MCT oil, exercise that helps to create ketones. Exercise regularly, as with the lymphatic system. Exercise regularly to increase blood flow and glymphatic flow into your brain. Okay, moving on. So this is from the National Institute of Health. This is a beginner's guide to the glymphatic system. You can read this on your own. This is clearance of excess fluid. Kind of goes over all of the same stuff, of course, but this is a scientific article. You can read this on your own. It will be linked in the description. What about the glymphatic system as a waste clearance with respect to brain aging? So here we go. Boom. Okay. Waste removal from the central nervous system is essential to maintaining brain homeostasis, meaning the balance, the biological balance of the brain. So, two interconnected dynamic networks were recently uncovered, which may provide new information concerning the conundrum of how the brain manages waste removal in absence of the authentic lymphatic vessels. The glymphatic system serves as the brain's front-end waste drainage pathway that includes paravascular network for cerebrospinal fluid. Okay. So, the first pioneering studies, yada, yada, yada. Glymphatic system concept. This is going over the same stuff here. This is how they measure glymphatic transport. This is about the pathways here. Connections between glymphatic system and LVs outside the brain. So in the first introduction of the glymphatic pathway, the physical merging of paravenous outflow from the brain, parenchyma, and downflow lymphatic circulation was suggested but not described in detail. However, new data on the downstream lymphatic network and how it interconnects with the glymphatic system, the glymphatic pathway, have recently emerged. First, authentic LVs were confirmed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, medical illustration of lymphatic vessels, vessels of the cranial nerves, drivers of glymphatic transport. From the strong premise that the glymphatic system is involved in brain waste clearance and has been documented to be less efficient in the aging rodent brain and in transgenic mouse models, becomes important to understand the controlling forces as discussed. Continuous cerebrospinal fluid transport through the brain parenchyma is critical for the glymphatic system's ability to transport and drain waste solutes. Thus, any condition that affects cerebrospinal fluid transport will also interfere with solute transport via the glymphatic system. Although the glymphatic system consists of multiple structural and functional components, it is viewed as a single waste processing unit. Water channels, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so AQP4 water channels are regulators of transcellular water flow and facilitate rapid movement of water across membranes in response to change in tonicity. This has to do with how water goes in and out of cells usually through minerals such as potassium, sodium, etc. Glymphatic influx is often investigated using tracers, which do not pass through the AQP4 channels, but are transported to the interstitial space via the small gaps between the astrocytic end feet. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Physical forces driving glymphatic transport. There is currently debate in the literature with regard to the mix of physical forces driving solute transport in the brain. While some studies support glymphatic waste transport due to pressure-driven bulk motion of fluid, referred to as advection, others claim that diffusion forces, blah, 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 Okay, parallel to the blood. Another feature supporting pressure-driven transport in the central nervous system is related to intracranial pressure. For example, if large cerebrospinal fluid reservoirs are open to atmospheric pressure, glymphatic clearance of solutes administered in brain is significantly reduced. So what that would mean is, I don't know anybody that's heard of trepanation, but trepanation, when they open the they open the cranial cavity to the atmosphere, it relieves pressure. Well, when you relieve the pressure, it reduces the ability of the cerebrospinal fluid to move about, and it decreases the glymphatic system's ability for clearance. Okay, pulsality and vascular remodeling in the aging brain. Arterial stiffness and reductions in compliance occur progressively in aging and are marked by degeneration of the otherwise highly elastic architecture of the arterial wall, blah, blah, blah. State of arousal. One of the most exciting studies concerning the glymphatic pathway was the report of the enhancing effect of sleep. Okay, thus in rodents, glymphatic influx was increased by 95%, and amyloid beta meaning amyloid beta plaques, the protein, was cleared 2 times faster in the cortex during slow wave sleep when compared to wakefulness. Because sleep is associated with improved brain waste clearance when compared to wakefulness, it is inferred that all drug-induced low arousal sleep states will promote brain waste clearance. However, the basis for sleep-induced enhancement of glymphatic transport appears to be closely linked to central norepinephrine tone activity. In agreement with this concept, they recently showed that rats receiving blah 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 in combination with low dose blah 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 a 30% higher glymphatic transport function. So this is showing that drug-induced sleep encourages glymphatic cleansing. Does a glymphatic system exist in the human brain? It is currently unknown if a does it exist in the human brain? It's currently unknown if a glymphatic system exists for drainage as described in rodents. In the human brain, although it does exist in other mammalian brains. Okay, first, the cerebral blah, blah, blah is twice as high, blah, blah, blah. I would assume, blah, 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 that it perhaps does. Okay, moving on. Glymphatics, keeping the brain's waste removal system healthy. So while the brain takes up only 2% of the total body mass, it is responsible for 25% of total body metabolism. Build-up and increase of lactic acid, blah, 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 the importance of healthy glymphatic function. A recent study published in April 2018 identified that in healthy adults, even 1 night of sleep deprivation has been shown to increase trash levels in the brain, leading to glymphatic congestion. The most striking evidence seen in this study was the demonstration of significant increase in amyloid beta burden in the right hippocampus and thalamus after only 1 night of missed sleep. Symptomatically, participants experienced a worsening of mood. The study revealed that genetic risk for Alzheimer's did not affect the results. The hippocampus is found deep in the brain and is considered the center of emotion, memory, and the autonomic nervous system. The thalamus is a relay. The hippocampus has also been thought to be the source of things like post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. So the thalamus is a relay station between the left and right sides of the brain that relays sensory information and is the center for pain perception. No matter how you look at it, acute or chronic sleep deprivation is not good. Eye health. Another area of exploration with glymphatics pertains to the eye and optic nerve. The optic nerve in the eye is an extension of the central nervous system. In the last year, scientists have discovered that glymphatic function helps cerebrospinal fluid bathe the optic nerve and is essential to waste removal or waste movement. Things that compromise glymphatic function: general anesthesia, especially high exposure, comprises glymphatics, heavy alcohol intake, diets heavy in refined sugar. Now, this is another thing that you need to understand. Does the ketogenic diet encourage glymphatic clearance because of the fact that it's ketogenic? Or does it encourage glymphatic clearance because it's low in sugar? Okay? So high stress levels and low intake of fruits and vegetables create a stress response in the body. The Western diet and lifestyle also contributes to increased amounts of toxins and damaged protein buildup that clogs the glymphatic system. When this is a chronic, lifelong pattern, scientists believe this is an underlying force for neurodegeneration and a burden on the glymphatic system. How to improve glymphatic function? A good night's sleep. There are many things you can do to encourage sleep. Nutritional support. Take magnesium glycinate, calcium, theanine, lemon balm, taurine, melatonin, and other nutrients that support sleep naturally. Musculoskeletal care and exercise helps the glymphatic system, glymphatic movement. Although the majority of glymphatic function and trash cleanup occurs during sleep, your brain is constantly working to keep things moving. Musculoskeletal care through spinal manipulation, meaning like from a chiropractor or of a doctor of osteopathic manipulation, provides structural and functional support for glymphatic flow. Hands-on care through chiropractic or osteopathic medicine has been shown helpful for glymphatic and lymphatic function. Craniosacral therapy, massage, and other care are also likely to help. Body position, of course, remember sleeping on your side. Glymphatics and nutrition. So grapeseed extract, fisetin, glutathione, tocotrienols, resveratrol, blueberry, and other nutrients that help boost antioxidants for the brain and support healthy glial cell activity will likely help trash removal. Omega-3 oils provide a protective role. Remember, you can get omega-3 oils from what? Canola oil. Animal research shows us that omega-3 DHA aids glymphatic function. So if you're concerned about getting enough DHA, of course there are algae-derived DHA products which are not high in pesticides, things like that, like the fish oil is. The mineral zinc is found in high concentrations in the brain, such as the hippocampus and other vital structures. Science shows that zinc is essential for glymphatic function as it is involved with the transport of waste products out of cells and dumping it into channels that clear it out of the brain. Foods high in zinc include pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, wheat germs, squash seeds. Supplemental zinc picolinate is an absorbable form of zinc that may be helpful. Another helpful nutrient for healthy lymph circulation is called galactin, a type of carbohydrate that helps support the immune system. Brain waste clearance and healthy lymphatics is incredibly vital to healthy aging. Reduced physical activity, poor sleep, cumulative effects of stressors from anesthesia, alcohol, lack of musculoskeletal care, and the Western diet contribute to more stress or decreased functional activity with the lymphatics. So what about melatonin's role? Okay, so the central nervous system is endowed with specialized cerebrospinal fluid, which removes toxic molecules and metabolic byproducts, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Introduction: the lymphatic system is a complex drainage network of the endothelium-lined microvessels that absorbs interstitial tissue fluid from the extracellular space, blah, 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 blah. For decades, it was thought that the central nervous system was anatomically excluded from the system despite the high metabolic activity of these structures, yada, yada, yada. Glymphatic system goes over the glymphatic system again. Delivery of cerebrospinal fluid, melatonin to the brain function implications, published, blah, blah, blah. Melatonin in neural diseases of aging. The brain is relatively deficient in antioxidants, so it takes more than its share of oxidative abuse. This is one of the primary reasons why you need a wide array of antioxidants, a large spectrum of antioxidants, and why you need lipid-soluble antioxidants, and why you need to consume fat so that those lipid-soluble antioxidants can actually absorb into the lipid part of the cell. Considering this, the elevated levels of cerebrospinal fluid melatonin and indiscriminate free radicals, which is an indiscriminate free radical scavenger, it scavenges all free radicals, and indirect antioxidant may be particularly important in protecting neurotissue from oxidative and nitrosative stress. There are many examples of melatonin's high efficacy in protecting the central nervous system from exogenous oxidizing agents. Not only does the melatonin efficiently neutralize radical oxygen species. Conclusions and perspectives. The recently described neuroglymphatic system has features that suggest it has a critically important role in maintaining neural homeostasis by removing harmful cellular metabolites and extracellular debris from the brain parenchyma, actually, similar to the function of the classic lymphatic system. This system has come into focus only within the last decade due to ingenious studies. I don't know if they're ingenious, but due to studies of a number of scientists, the system includes specializations in the brain and spinal cord that function. And moving on. As many people know, I loves me some quercetin. So a flavonoid on the brain. Quercetin is a potential therapeutic agent in central nervous system disorders. Quercetin is one of the most common naturally occurring flavonoids, structurally classified to the flavanol subfamily. This compound found in many edible and medicinal plants, blah, 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 as a free or okay, except, okay. What they mean by free or glycostated or whatever, it's either attached to a sugar or it's freely not bound to anything. So quercetin is a flavanol, blah, blah, blah. It's either a glycoside, quercetrine. It is found, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. The protective and disease preventative activity of quercetin as a food ingredient is well known. A great number of studies confirmed its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effect. Furthermore, cytotoxic, anti-proliferative, anti-diabetic, anti-obesity, and antimicrobial activities were reported. Recent data indicate that quercetin may also play a beneficial role in central nervous system disorders. The idea that quercetin may be of use as a potential therapeutic agent is based on its well-known antioxidant, blah, 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 and vitamin C tocopherols, is needed for mitochondrial metabolism, radical oxygen, okay. A vast amount of experimental data has been accumulated in recent years suggesting that quercetin could be a promising molecule for further development as a therapeutic agent. Moreover, it is recognized as safe and in recommended doses is deprived of any side effects. Several reviews published recently have dealt with the various biological activities of quercetin. Especially widely reviewed is its neuroprotective activity, with an insight into mechanistic aspects, as well as the potential role in Alzheimer's disease, cancer, or other neurological disorders. Furthermore, some reports focused on potential molecular cellular targets in cognitive impairments, and others on quercetin's efficacy in animal models. Recently, Silvestro have reviewed the antidepressive-like potential of quercetin in acute and chronic stress-induced animal models. Therefore, the aim of the current blah, 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 metabolism and bioavailability, the high lipophilicity of quercetin. Remember what I said, this is why we need to eat fats. Don't fall for that nonsense of a super low-fat diet. You need fats to utilize things like quercetin. Okay, so it's lipophilic, meaning it likes fat. Okay, so a limited percentage ingested quercetin that reaches circulation levels is small, in small concentrations available, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Okay, so quercetin-loaded nanocarriers is about using nanocarriers to deliver it. Quercetin in neurodegenerative diseases. Neurodegeneration refers to any pathological state characterized by neuronal damage, impeding neuronal functionality, or neuronal death. Degenerative diseases are neurological disorders in which specific groups of neurons are affected. From among a great number of neurodegenerative disorders, only a few have gained wider interest as research objects for studying the potential therapeutic role of quercetin, that is Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, and Lou Gehrig's disease. Dementia is the disorder of cognitive functions such as remembering, thinking. Everybody knows what dementia is. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. As was mentioned earlier, several reviews discussed quercetin's effectiveness in cognitive decline, meaning it helps with cognitive decline. Okay, it has a cholinergic effect, which it helps with choline. Okay, quercetin has revealed acetylcholinesterase inhibitory activity, meaning it helps the brain hold on to choline. Pro-neurotrophic effect, a decline in the levels of neurotrophic factors is noted in some neurodegenerative and psychiatric diseases. Dementia, depression, increased expression of genes for these neurotrophic factors is responsible for neuronal plasticity, improving synaptic functions and synaptogenesis, meaning the birth of synapse and nerve cells, neuronal survival, blah, 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 inflammation. It's also anti-inflammatory. It has an antioxidant effect, anti-neurotoxic. It helps to detoxify the nervous system. It improves metabolic disruption. It obviously helps with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, okay, so Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, to date, there are no effective methods that would inhibit neurodegenerative, blah, blah, blah. Quercetin treated group, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, and another experiment, quercetin doses of 100 to 200 milligram per kilogram, but not 50 milligram per kilogram, given, blah, 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 consecutive days, alleviated significantly motor balance and coordination. Huntington's disease. Okay, so 20 milligrams per kilogram. Moreover, other symptoms such as weight loss, motor dysfunction, anxiety were improved. Other neurodegenerative quercetin was also investigated in single studies on models of some other diseases that are classified as neurodegenerative, such as Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, pathogen. Okay, it is observed quercetin as well as other polyphenols, so things like that are in blueberries, blackberries, citrus peel, etc. It helps suppress the elongation of fibril mutant fibrillation. However, the existing experimental data is still scant. Effects of quercetin in mental disorders, depressive disorders. A detailed review, quercetin in animals of depression, which covered studies up to 2020, have been recently released. The most prominent hypothesis of pathogenesis of depression in the context of the search for novel therapeutic drugs are the disturbance of levels of neurotransmitters, blah, blah, blah. The study showed a positive influence on the expression of hippocampal signaling pathway, regulates phosphorylation, blah, 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 hippocampal neurogenesis. In context, neuroinflammation is a factor. Okay, anxiety disorders. Obsessive compulsive disorders. In a couple studies, of quercetin was confirmed, blah, blah. So it's an anti-anxiety. The effect of quercetin was significant. Okay, quercetin, in the case, one study therapeutic potential for quercetin in brain cancer. Obviously, the big reason I love quercetin is its anti-proliferative and anti-cancer abilities. So brain cancers are characterized by rapid development, high drug resistance, and poor prognosis. Okay, in recent study, a molecular docking approach, blah, 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 quercetin multi-targeting potential against selected glioma targets, namely epidermal growth, blah, blah, blah. So quercetin interacted treatment of gliomas. A number of studies focused on evaluation of quercetin efficacy in combination with other approved drugs and other substances to verify synergistic potential of the compound. Novel drug delivery systems, yada, yada, yada. Clinical studies on quercetin. Okay. People can read this on their own, but quercetin is a safe, health protective, and common food ingredient that is easy to isolate either in a pure or glycosylated form. Both are generally characterized by low bioavailability. Nevertheless, As regards to the central nervous system diseases, the activity of pure quercetin has been studied most often, and there have been many novel formulations. Quercetin's activity has been widely studied, and many pathways that contribute to its mode of action have been reported. The most relevant, blah, blah, blah. However, Okay, mechanisms of action. We've gone over this. I've gone over quercetin many times. Yada, yada, yada. And people can read this on their own. Quercetin is either a free compound, blah, blah, blah. Summary. Undoubtedly, quercetin is a biologically active agent with apparent impact on the central nervous system, which may be of future use in the treatment of central nervous system disorders, presumably as an adjuvant, not in monotherapy. The clinical studies in terms of cognitive improvements or the described case study in brain cancer proves its potential. Recently, a combination of quercetin with danastanib in subject blah blah blah. Furthermore, it has senolytic activity, which means it gets rid of senescent cells. It de-ages you. Furthermore, the development and technology of novel drug delivery systems gives hope to the development of quercetin drug formulations with better blood-brain barrier penetration. And moving on. So, alpha-lipoic acid is a synthetic version of lipoic acid, which helps cells make energy. It's another antioxidant. It has antioxidant properties. With alpha-lipoic acid, supplements are generally considered safe. Clinical research is very limited, blah, blah, blah. Evidence, no randomized controlled studies, potential benefit. Preclinical research suggests that alpha-lipoic acid scavenges free radicals, reduces inflammation, and may promote brain cells might protect brain cells from conditions such as stroke, multiple sclerosis, and Alzheimer's disease. For dementia, in clinical trials, alpha-lipoic acid treatment for mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's patients. So for Alzheimer's patients, cognitive function worsened after 16 weeks of treatment with antioxidant cocktail of let's see. In one clinical trial, Alzheimer's believed cognitive function worsened after 16 weeks of a cocktail of vitamin E, vitamin C, though the supplements reduced evidence of oxidative stress in the brain. So while the symptoms may have worsened, the oxidative stress in the brain decreased. So you don't know whether the symptoms worsened, but they could have been progressing quite rapidly with the Alzheimer's disease, but the oxidative stress, which damages the brain, declined. In another clinical trial, Alzheimer's patients who took a combination of 600 milligrams of alpha-lipoic acid with omega-3 fatty acids for 1 year showed less cognitive functional decline. 2 open-label pilot studies suggested that alpha-lipoic acid, in addition to standard care, might benefit Alzheimer's patients with diabetes. Safety. Evidence from clinical trials suggests that alpha-lipoic acid is generally safe for healthy individuals, although one clinical trial reported occasional minor stomach discomfort at high doses. Okay, moving on. Alpha-lipoic acid is neurorestorative and promotes functional recovery after stroke. The antioxidant properties of alpha-lipoic acid correlate with its ability to promote neuroproliferation, meaning more nerve cells. However, there have been no comprehensive studies examining the neurorestorative effects of ALA. Introduction: stroke is a leading cause of death worldwide, yada, yada, yada. Alpha-lipoic acid is an antioxidant, blah, blah, blah. The neuroprotective effects of alpha-lipoic acid pre-treatment for ischemic injury have been shown in several different experimental models in rodents. Recent evidence from an in vitro experimental model suggests that the antioxidant properties of alpha-lipoic acid, specifically its ability to restore glutathione content, correlate with its ability to promote glial neuronal interactions. Previous studies in this area are limited and have either focused on one specific antioxidant mechanism. To date, there have been no reports of comprehensive studies, blah, blah, blah. Materials, methods, this is going over how the study was done. People can read this on their own. Okay, let's see here. Increased survival rate with alpha-lipoic acid, pre-treatment. Remember, it was pre-treatment. Functional recovery, animals were subjected, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. They have shown that urgent treatment with alpha-lipoic acid after ischemic injury had long-term neurorestorative effects. So, urgent treatment with alpha-lipoic acid, 20 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, okay, after ischemic injury had long-term neurorestorative effects against neural damage caused by cerebral infarction, meaning of stroke, in rats. Administration of alpha-lipoic acid has shown to reduce infarct size in several different models. Treatment with alpha-lipoic acid resulted in 26% relative reduction in lesion size. Long-term neurorestorative effects of alpha-lipoic acid were associated with several markers of neuroproliferation. This is a novel finding and demonstrates for the first time a putative mechanism of neurorestoration by alpha-lipoic acid. Okay. So this is from Psychology Today, and this is 5 science-backed ways to reboot your biology. Number 1, wash out your brain. Get plenty of sleep. We've gone over this. That's why I covered it in here. Clean up your cells. I encourage people to read this. This is to do with autophagy. I've talked about autophagy. It has to do with exercise, fasting, and there are certain things that, such as calorie restriction mimetics, which help with inducing autophagy. Burn up visceral fat. Get rid of that fat, you know. Upgrade your genetic expression. Again, this has to do with epigenetics, with exercise, diet, and certain supplements. Improve your brain wiring. And people can read this on their own, putting it all together. And that's all for this video.